have anything to eat? Proves he was Catholic, I'm sorry. We gather and we eat, that's what we do here at Festival. Alright? And then he says, this is what Moses said, I'm just telling you what I've already told you. What do you think the whole point of today's gospel is? Anybody dare to venture again?
He's reminding them that they're witnesses to this journey.
Excellent. Witnesses to their journey. What does that mean? That's exactly right.
That they need to go forth and share that message with other people.
How many people would have said that was the main purpose? A few? See, that's a very interesting thing. We listen to this gospel, we listen to all of these resurrection accounts. Of course, our first two readings help us with this. The Easter season is not primarily proclaiming the gospel message of resurrection so that we'll believe in the resurrection. Remember, the Gospels were written for people who already believed. It's only a later development where the Gospels are used to try to convince people to believe. And they don't really do a very good job of that in a way. They're for people who have already experienced what we heard at the beginning today from our wonderful testimony from our neophyte, our newly initiated, of this baptism in the Holy Spirit, who have already experienced the person of Jesus, so that this makes sense. Indeed, I think it would not take a great deal of effort to convince people that the resurrection is true. I mean, death in itself is such a horror, is such a repulsive thing, that there is something intrinsic in the human heart that wants to know it isn't true, that it isn't right. It was planted that way by God. God intends us to reject death as the end of our existence. So just proclaiming resurrection, that he who planted that instinct has done something about it, well, I think most right listening people would say, okay, that I can listen to that. But this last part, to me, this is the point of this constant reminder of the resurrection. That if we believe that, then we are called to testify to it to the whole world. Go now, beginning in Jerusalem, and preach this word to all of the nations, to everybody. You see, the mark of belief in the resurrection is not a serenity that I'm not going to die, and so I'm never afraid of death anymore. It is an impulse, it is an excitement, it is a need to share that conviction with other people. Not conceited, but convinced. When we are convinced of this Easter message, the proclamation of the Easter message must follow as surely as light follows the igniting of a flame. It can't be separated. And my dear sisters and brothers, I'm delighted to hear that that's what we've heard. But I have to say, I don't think it is the primary listening of the Christian community today. In fact, it is the separation of that proclamation part that is so devastating to the witness of Christians today. If you look at our history, for the first 500, 600 years, that was central. The apostles left Jerusalem. They began to fan out all the way to India and to Iraq and to Rome and to all sorts of places there. Their disciples went further and further. It was the nature that I have to let everybody know this. Somehow along the line, we've gotten into this notion that, Christianity is like kind of, just one way to the same place. There are many different ways. Everybody's kind of okay if they just do good, don't hurt anybody, and believe in God. That's just not true. It's just not true. God did not appoint anybody except Jesus Christ for their salvation. No one. That may come as horribly shocking to some of our folks today, but that is the case. That's why he is raised from the dead. He wanted to make sure, the Father wanted to be certain, that when we look for an anointed one, we could say there's only one person who's been dead and come back. There's only one person who has received the Spirit and emptied the tomb. The experience of the resurrection is an experience that I need to conquer the world. Christianity seeks to conquer the world with its message of living resurrection faith. To be sure, after those first 500 years, the entanglement with politics and government and society changed that into a conquering of the world, not by faith but by force, not by lifestyle but by law, and that is a huge mistake. But the answer to that mistake is not simply to presume that my faith is my private domain, that it's enough if me and my family believe in it. It isn't enough. Jesus never said it was enough. He never said, good, now you've got it about the resurrection, go home and keep this in mind and live happily ever after. In every single account of people receiving the faith, they become enlivened to share it. So we are enlivened too. You know, we may not be able to conquer the whole world from this place yet. I don't know. Maybe the Lord's intent. Stranger things have happened that a small group of people, like in Jerusalem, received the Holy Spirit with such power, like in Jerusalem, that they then caught on fire, go out to catch the rest of the world on fire, like from Jerusalem. God has been known to do these things. He may be doing it in Chesapeake, I don't know. But what I do know is that in our own part of the world, it is not enough for our God to look at the Catholic presence and see people with such reluctance to share it. There is a Catholic mindset about the resurrection, remember that. We do see the world differently. And to our many Protestant brothers and sisters who are here today, I'm not speaking in any kind of demeaning fashion about your faith. We have many ecumenical families who are here. I'm just stating what is. Catholics look at the world differently because of the incarnation of a God who still is at work in the world, who has saved the world, who has extended that salvation universally to all things, creatures, and people. And in the resurrection calls us then to view all life as thoroughly infused with divine grace, and particularly human life, from every single phase of its existence. We see the world in a different way. Our God needs an army of Catholic viewing Christian people to spread the word that the life we live is good, has meaning, and does not end. In fact, our literal existence is immortal, that we'll experience our dying, but not our death. I mean, one of the ways, frankly, that I became more and more convinced is I used to have a friend that we'd go out to dinner, and the waiter would come and bring our food, and my friend would say, and what church do you go to? And when the person would say, well, I don't go to church, well, he'd launch, and that was it. And he used to embarrass the heck out of me. And I remember saying to him once, good old Irish priest, I remember saying to him once, I said, Frank, can we just have dinner? I mean, is it all right? And he looked at me and he said, I'll have dinner, just dinner, when you can tell me which of the people who comes to our table does not deserve this good news. And when you can point out that person that doesn't deserve what I've got and have to share, I'll shut up. The next day,